What is up, everybody? Saltiest Gaming, and we're back. We're finally back with another podcast. Saltiest Podcast, episode 14. We're back, baby. I am super happy to be back, guys. You don't even know. I was itching to be talking with you guys. I'm super happy. The wife had a birthday, and we did some bingo. She actually won. So we're back in business, baby. What's up, everybody? We got a special guest tonight. Rand, what is up, buddy? What's going on?
Yo, what is going on, Salty, Fonz, my brother, and Nick, who I met last night in party?
Yes, sir.
I'm doing pretty good. I'm happy to be here. I know you had asked me a couple weeks ago, and I'm always loving coming on podcasts, talking to people about video games, which we do quite regularly in parties lately. You've been hopping in there with Fonz and Dealer and those guys. It's always interesting discussions.
Yeah, man. I mean, I stayed in there and people were coming in and out and we were talking. It just felt like a podcast. It was just like going in and out, like people were giving their inputs, counter arguments. It's a blast in the parties. And that's the good thing about Xbox, right? I mean, you get to meet people in the community, you join random parties, you finally get to meet them on Xbox Live, and you shoot the shit. And that's what's important. We're happy to have you on, Rand. Thanks for, coming on. Franz,
No
is that your name, Franz there? Jay Franzarelli. What's up, my buddy?
No, man, it's Fraudarelli. Get it right. Anyway,
Fraudarelli.
I want to give a shout out to all the people in the live chat. Thanks for coming on, man. This is awesome to be with us here tonight, talking about all this great stuff we're going to talk about, and not so great stuff, because we're going to touch a bit on that net neutrality, right? So that's going to be fun. So anyways, I'm glad to be here, man. Let's get it started.
Cool. Nick, what is going on, my buddy?
Hey, man,
I heard you got a new mic. What's going on?
I got a new microphone. Mic check. I hope I sound good. Yes, sir. I mean, I'm doing all right. I'm kind of finally got over being sick over the week. I was sick for Thanksgiving, all that stuff. So, I'm finally on the back wind of it. So I'm feeling good, feeling better, and just ready to talk about some video games, if you know what I'm talking about.
Sir, yes, sir. All right. Well, let's get into it, man. Let's not delay here, because I'm ready to get popping with these topics.
Get it popping.
So anyway, Black Friday passed. Xbox was having some sales. Did you guys have a chance to check those out? Did you guys pick up any of those games? I know I did. I had the chance to pick up like 3 games. I bought Assassin's Creed Origins, which is amazing, by the way. I bought Mortal Kombat X for $8. I mean, how can you pass that up? And I bought Gears 4. And I've been wanting to pick up Gears 4 for a while now. And I did Horde mode with, Jago, Dealer, and some other people. Stinking Corpse. We hit 50 waves, and that was interesting. We were hiding in a girl's bathroom on I forgot what map it is, but we were shooting the shit, man. And that's what Xbox is all about, is meeting people, randomly and playing with them in games and stuff. So we had fun with that. Did you guys have a chance to pick any of the Xbox sales up, or actually go Black Friday shopping?
Well, I was actually looking at those sales myself. I think this is one of the best years that I've seen for console sales, digitally. I was pretty impressed. I didn't pick anything up, though, because right now, like I said before, I'm laid off this week. So I got to save my money for other things. But, man, yeah, there's some great games out there to be had. If I could, I would have got like Wolfenstein 2 and stuff. There's some great games. So $30, man, for that game. Holy crap.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I own most of the stuff, but I did pick up some things that and maybe for down the road, like, you're gonna laugh. I know Fonz will, but I bought Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy because it was $20.
Woo.
Nice.
Why not?
Why not? Why
Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy. I've also bought Assassin's Creed Ezio Collection, because it was $20, and that's all 3 the Assassin's Creed games, which I do quite enjoy. So I was like, $20 if I play it. If I don't, it's always there. I bought Watch Dogs 2 for a friend. I used the digital gifting feature for the first time. So I sent him Watch Dogs 2. I sent someone else Final Fantasy 15 because it was on sale. I bought the season pass for Witcher 3 because it was $12, because I didn't have that. And I bought the season pass for Dead Rising 4 because it was $4. even though I'll probably never play it. But for $4, I mean, why not, right?
I mean, how could you pass that up? That's kind of like Mortal Kombat X for me because I had that game physically, and then I traded it in. That's back when I was physical. I was like with physical copies of games, and then some of these games come up with $5 or $6 or $8 price tags, and you just got to put it in your collection. It's just a good game to have or games to have. One of the things that someone brought up to me is the Steam sales, and who was I talking to? I think it was Lex, and Lex was like, do you think that we'll ever be on par with Steam and their sales? Do you guys think that we're getting to that point with the digital games and the fact that more and more people are going all digitals? Do you think we'll hit that level of Steam sales on the regular? Because I know that we have these holiday sales, but do you think Xbox is going to move more towards that model?
It's interesting because we haven't even really hit like the physical stuff yet. Like, I know it's great that Wolfenstein 2 was 30, but I believe it was 25 physical, right? At stores and stuff.
Yeah, GameStop. I think it was like 25 at GameStop, and that
like
and
within, yeah. Oh. I mean, so it seems like you can still get games cheaper physical during these physical sales, but it's
But when you say that they're doing this like at GameStop and stuff to try to stay relevant, Rand, because
but it wasn't just GameStop. Digital. It was Best Buy. It was
I know, but physical
other places
are going the way of the dodo. It seems with digital on the rise. So I'm wondering if that's what they're doing.
I will say that the deals are getting better and better each year. Like, I was surprised by how many games not only were on sale, but were on sale for almost the same price as their physical counterparts. So maybe in a couple years, we'll reach that level where it's just like Steam. Although that kind of also presents a problematic issue, is that when you start doing that, people don't even bother buying games at full price anymore. Steam's kind of had that for a little bit of time. It's like, well, why buy Wolfenstein 2 at full price for 60 when a month later you're going to get it for 20? Right?
True.
I bought Need for Speed Payback the day it came out, and then the week after, literally 5 days later, it was on sale for $35.
Ouch, right?
And I thought it was safe to buy that game because it was 1 week later. I'm like, they're not going to drop this, and sure enough, they dropped it.
I mean, I paid for Assassin's Creed Origins, and then the week later, it was cheaper on the sale. So I kind of feel your pain there.
Yeah.
And also with Steam, they got to deal with the pirating issue, so they got to stay on top of that with like the lower prices, because the PC markets, it's there's an issue there with people pirating their games. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the reasons why they got to keep their prices down. So I don't know exactly the ins and outs of the business side of that and how they do that. But I do know that because like if you look back, I don't know, even like 3 years ago, there was like nothing on sale. Like I couldn't really find anything on sale when it came to digital games and stuff. And then to look back from where we came to where we are now, it's moving in the right direction. Let's just put it that way. But we're going to get on, I guess let's talk about Hellblade. This is one of the issues that's come up, and one of the topics of conversation that's come up in the community from the PlayStation side and the Xbox side. Hellblade sold 600,000 units in 3 months. That's a combination of PlayStation sales and PC. When you compare that to, it's not the same game, but Cuphead sold 1 million, and that was a combination of Steam and Xbox. Let's talk about the fact that Hellblade sold, 600,000, but they have a user base of about 65 million. Is this a reflection on Sony? Is it a reflection on exclusives? Let's talk about it. Rand, do you want to start it off for us? Let's talk about this situation with Hellblade.
I think it's more a reflection of the marketing of the game, to be honest with you. Cuphead was marketed much better. It had dedicated showtime appearances on E3 stages. It was in people's minds for such a long time. Hellblade wasn't. It was only like YouTube trailers. I'm pretty sure it was never on one of Sony's stages. And I mean, it does deal with a topic that a lot of people don't want to talk about, and that is, like psychosis and mental issues. And it is a little bit pricey at $30. but it's a great game. I don't know. See, the idea here that like the Sony fan base failed the game, you know, there's 65 million of them and only 500,000 or 250,000, whatever way you want to split it between PC. I mean, people always say that because like even last gen, like, oh, this game should have sold more in the 360 because the 360 had such a user base. But the thing with that is like software sales never scale linearly with hardware sales. You know, there's only a set amount of audience for a particular game out there, and it doesn't matter if that audience has 100 million users. It's only ever going to appeal to a certain subsection of that audience. So I think it's pretty good for a game like that. The developers have come out and said like it's exceeded their expectations. They're actually in profit faster than they thought. So they themselves were obviously thinking on the lower end. And if they're happy with what they got and what they're getting, then I don't see why anybody else should really complain about it. I mean, the devs are happy. It's going to make money, and maybe it comes to Xbox one day and sells more, and you know the devs get even more money from it because it is a fantastic game.
Yeah, that's a good take. Fonz, what do you think about this situation? I know you're on, you know, I know Rand has PlayStation. He talks about it. You do too. Like, what's your take on this? Like,
I personally have the same feelings as Rand with this whole situation. I was on another podcast the other day discussing this with Porter Rock, who is going absolutely mental about this situation, calling it a big L. But I tried to tell him in a calm manner. I don't personally look at sales and NPDs personally, but if the developers are happy with where they're at, if you have, because every business has a projected market where they see the projected profits. So where they see this particular product is going to be, you know, say 6-9 months out, whatever. They had exceeded that. Okay. So they had made a profit here with this game. So I don't see the problem with getting all up in arms over this thing, especially like Rand pointed out again. Cuphead for 3 years was sort of hyped up. I mean, the marketing was bigger on that side of the fence as well. I mean, there was absolutely like zero marketing for Hellblade. You saw a few things here and there, maybe on YouTube or something, but I really didn't see commercials on TV or anything about it. I think it's just one of those indie type games that not really indie. I'm not sure if you want to call it indie, but it was one of those games that really just didn't appeal to the mass market.
And to piggyback off of Fonz's point, Microsoft treated Cuphead like an exclusive. Like it was one of their console exclusives, right? Even though it was on PC.
Yeah.
Where Sony treated Hellblade as just another release. You know? Just no fanfare, just released it out like any other game. Whereas Microsoft really promoted the crap out of Cuphead. I mean, they even had a launch party. And the game was self-published. So, I mean, it wasn't even...
But with Cuphead, how much... now, I know some people were calling it a failure, selling just over 1 million for Cuphead. But how much...
I think let me real quick. I think the reason why they said it was a failure is because it was the Xbox side. Like, it sold more on Steam.
Oh, okay, so it was just word of
mouth. They were using that against... Yeah.
Okay. So we don't know exactly how much money was poured into this game then. And if they've recouped, though, at least that much.
Well, nobody knows the true sales. All they said was that they sold over 1 million, and you get some sense of PC sales. But like since Microsoft doesn't talk about that, you don't know if Cuphead sold more or less than PC. All you can see is, well, PC was 600,000. They say it's over 1 million, so they immediately say, well, Xbox was 400,000. But I mean, Xbox could easily have been 500,000 or the same amount at 600,000. All they said was over 1 million. I know. So
just to kind of give you a picture on what I thought about it as being more of a Sony fan this generation when it comes to these games, especially these type of games. When I looked at Hellblade and I saw what it was about and stuff, it didn't interest me. I'll be totally honest with you. It didn't interest me. And I'm into the games like this. I'm into games like that look similar to this, say your The Last of Us games or, you know, Uncharted or whatever. They got the similar look, but, you know, it's dealing with a topic that I didn't necessarily want to deal with in a video game. And I think that alone didn't hit the mass audience. So,
Yeah, it's an interesting topic because I think it touches upon a lot of these things that people are talking about right now. Because first of all, it talks about exclusives. Do they matter? Do they not matter? I know it's a lower tier game. Um, it also touches upon the fact that the PC split between the console and the PC sales, because I heard from a lot of people on the PlayStation side that it wasn't a true exclusive because it was on PC. And that's an interesting situation because, we see that a lot on the Xbox side. So when I'm seeing Cuphead get slammed for the amount of sales that it has, I don't care how much Microsoft, promoted it. And I understand it's been around for a long time. The fact still remains, the sales are sales. No matter how much they promoted it, the sales figures still tell a story. You have a user base of over 65 million, and then you sold, what, 600K in 3 months. And I understand that what you guys are saying, it's a lower tier game, but why didn't PlayStation promote it more? I mean, do they look down upon the smaller titles? Do they only promote, the Uncharted's and stuff like that? Why was Xbox slammed so much for the amount of sales that it had for Cuphead? I still think that there's kind of a disconnect there. I think one, was slammed for the sales, but they, one performed better just because Cuphead sold a certain amount on Xbox. They told you, it said it was a failure because the users didn't buy it.
Salty. I think it comes down to how much money the developers put into marketing, and I think that was pretty non-existent. So I think that's why they made a profit with this game, was the fact that it didn't really market it heavily like some of these other bigger titles do. And it is what it is, man. Like I see what you're saying, but at the same time, like, man, Cuphead had so much hype behind it for 3 years, man. It really did. So that's my only argument here, is the fact that there was a lot of even Xbox hardcore people touting this game for 3 years, and it wasn't bought up the way the masses said it would be. And that's the problem I think people have with it.
The only problem that I have is because, like, you remember when Hellblade came out, like, all the media outlets were saying how good it was, and it's true. Like, it was getting extremely positive ratings. It was in the media. So no matter how much, PlayStation decided to promote it or not, it was still in people's mind's eye. Like, the way I was hearing about it, I felt like it was selling well over 1 million.
Yeah,
From people, like, it felt like everybody was playing it. Everybody was talking about it. Xbox people that had a PlayStation as their side console, they were
I don't
playing
really follow that, though. I don't follow MPDs. I don't follow game sales. It's just not my thing. I really don't care at the end of the day, unless I really love the game and it did miserably and they're never going to come out with a sequel. That's when I care, Aside from that, I don't care how much profit they make or, don't make necessarily, as long as the game is a good game.
Nick, you've been quiet there. You playing with your mic there. What's going on with you? Like, what do you think about this topic? I want to hear what you think, since you've been a little bit quiet there.
I mean, I tend to agree with Fonz and Rand. I mean, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I mean, it did what it did. I don't get. I mean, what I don't get is the whole thing where you were talking about how people saying that Cuphead was a failure compared to the Hellblade because it was sold on PC or whatever. I mean, where did that even come from? I didn't know that was a thing. Because of that, that makes no sense. I mean, it sold, and the same thing goes for Hellblade. It sold what it sold, and they're gonna call that a failure. But if the developers are happy with it, I mean, and they are making a profit, and if they got their profit back, or if they got whatever they invested into the game back, then, and they're fine with it, then just let it be. And that's my take on it, pretty much.
Okay. I mean, it just comes down to, because I don't necessarily care about MPDs and stuff like that, how much they make. That's nonprofit work. But I do care about the topic because it is interesting about this power narrative versus exclusives. Because right now, on Xbox, we have, the power is there. The Xbox One X is out. the reason why NPDs are in the, you know, the mind's eye of people is because they want to know, does power trump everything, or does exclusives trump everything? We know that the truth is in the middle there. Games are important, exclusives are important, and power is important, but people just want to go black and white with the topic, you know? So this is where these, you know, these situations stem from, is the power versus exclusives narrative. We had this talk in the party last night. So anyway, I just want to talk about the fact that, you know, November MPDs. I know, Fonz, you don't really care for this topic.
Oh, he loves them. He loves them.
I love it.
It's an interesting thing going on, because the way we don't have sales figures. A lot of people love to bring up Amazon. They do screenshots, but unfortunately, Amazon updates hourly, so that can change, you know. But what do you guys think about the MPD for November? Who do you think is going to win? I personally think that it's going to be the Switch, and it's going to kind of.
I think PlayStation, bro. I think PlayStation.
PlayStation. Okay.
I would have to. I think it's going to be an arms race between Xbox and the Switch. I read an article that the Nintendo Switch was the number one selling online. That was the number one, like, for Black Friday this whole weekend. That was the number one thing that sold on all online outlets. So Amazon, anything you can get it from, that was the number one thing that was purchased. So I thought that was very interesting. But you know, we won't know numbers about, you know, people going out to stores, but online, that was one thing I read. And so I'm really interested to see, you know, what's going to happen here toward the end with the Switch and the Xbox One X. I think it's going to be an arms race, but I might have to agree with you on that one. I think it's going to be the Switch.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I made my prediction back in October. I'm gonna stick with it. I have Switch at number 1, and I have Xbox barely ahead of PlayStation at number 2. Doesn't surprise me that Pony Fonz put PlayStation number 1. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the way I look at it is like, I think the X gave the Xbox enough of a head start with those pre-orders on day 1 that Sony had to the $199 sale, which did incredibly well for them. You know, it was sold out. They dropped the price early in the week instead of at Black Friday like Xbox did.
Mm-hmm.
I think that initial sale of Xbox One X's, whether it's 400,000, like, I think maybe that gives them enough cushion that when you combine those with what they sold for the S for the month, that it puts them slightly above the PlayStation, but still behind the Switch.
Yeah. So the article that I read, it's hard to gauge, you know, because the numbers aren't going to be out until later. But they were saying that there's a guy, Matt Piscatella. He was predicting that they're going to sell 600,000 Xbox One X consoles this year by the end of 2017. The thing that I want to touch upon is a lot of I refer back to social media because I participate there a lot. Like I say in my videos, I love to talk about gaming, but one of the things that's brought up a lot is if the Xbox, you know, let's say that they don't win MPDs for November, then a lot of this narrative is going to say, well, the Xbox One X is a failure because you guys didn't win MPD, and it's the easiest time of the year to win MPD for a new console. The counter argument for that is that it's a mid-gen refresh. And we've never really gone through this. We went through it with PlayStation 4 Pro, but that's a different story. You know, it wasn't promoted like the X is. So, you know, if the Xbox somewhat doesn't sell more than the Switch, it doesn't mean it's a failure, you know? Like, and a lot of people are going to go to that thing and that narrative because it's an easy narrative. It's something easy to attach to because it's a number, but it's a mid-gen refresh. So, you know, that's my take there. What do you guys think? Like, if Xbox doesn't come out on top, is it poorly reflected on the Xbox One X, as a mid-gen refresh, or what's the
No,
story there?
No, not at all.
no, because it's a mid-gen refresh. Look what the Pro has done, or hasn't done, I should say. The sales haven't been as good as the X even, and the thing that surprises me most about this NPD in November is the fact that Nintendo had enough Switches out there for people to buy, because usually they're on the forefront of not having enough product out there in the wild. And I've seen pictures of stacks of Switches in different areas and stuff, and I'm surprised that there is so many Switches out there. And that's great for Nintendo. I'm glad. And you guys could be very well right. They could win NPD for November. I can see that, but I'm still going with PlayStation on that. But yeah, man, that's how I feel.
Interesting.
I think people here's the thing. We can even take this back to the Hellblade versus Cuphead thing. It's all about fanboys and agendas they want to push and narratives that they want to control, right? The narrative that if Xbox doesn't beat PlayStation or Switch, that power means nothing because the most powerful console ever failed to propel Xbox. That'll be used by people who don't like Xbox to push the narrative that'll just be what fanboys. And they'll use that as the PlayStation fans will be like, see, power doesn't matter, because Xbox fans for a long time were saying only reason people bought PlayStation was for power. And now you have this experiment where power didn't sell more than PlayStation, so they'll use that. And of course, on the flip side, if Xbox does win, people are going to say, see, power matters. And they'll use that argument against... It's basically whatever side of the fence you're on, you're going to craft your argument and your agenda to fit your purposes.
Yep.
And you got to watch out for that. You got to realize, who does that. You got to watch out for those people, man, because they're disingenuous. They're not telling you the full truth. They're just telling you, they're like Bungie, kind of hiding the truth from people, man. I don't know. That's kind of the way I see it.
Bungie, Activision, EA, all wrapped into one, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that leads perfectly into the next topic. I mean, let's talk about these situation with microtransactions. Last week we didn't have a podcast, so I want to talk about Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
The fact that loot boxes were pulled November 17th. There's been some pictures leaked out that, Black Friday sells. You see this kiosk of games, and the top section's full of Battlefront 2 hard copies.
Yeah.
So, and then the fact that, Disney was threatening pulling the IP if they didn't change things. So let's talk about Star Wars and, how it's a shining example of microtransactions and, what not to do in video games. What's your guys' thoughts on the fact that they had to pull the microtransactions in general, in total? And do you think that game can be saved or not? Let's start with Nick. What's your thoughts on that?
No, game cannot be saved. It already has enough bad press on it. There's already a bad juju around it. There was already a bad juju around that game with the release of Battlefront 1. People were pissed off about that. And then they went ahead and put out Battlefront 2, and then they did this. EA just probably can't make that franchise anymore, honestly. It's just bad. And they just kind of sullied the name of that game, man. The loot box situation was just atrocious. It was blatant. They were in it, the way it was done, you couldn't get, your star cards or whatever, and the craft and the credits and all the crafting parts and all that stuff. Everything about that was a pay to win model. It was blatant. And then whenever they just said that, oh, well, we're going to change it so it's not so hard for you to get Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, and then they went ahead and cut those prices in half. But then not only did they cut those prices, well, not in half, 75%, but not only did they cut those prices by 75%, they also cut the amount of credits that you got by 75%. So in the end, it didn't really matter at all. And people caught on to this, and it was bad and bad. Disney finally had to step in and say, you need to cut it out because this is going to hurt, the movie coming out. This is going to hurt our press with Star Wars. Disney, talked to them. They cut out all microtransactions in the games. Now you earn your loot boxes, but it's still the same thing, and it's still super grindy, and it's ruined. I mean, there's players on the game right now. I read a report on Polygon that there's players right now playing the game. They're not even playing the game. They're putting rubber bands on their controllers and they're running around just to grind for credits because that's how atrocious it is. And there's plenty of players doing it. And it's been reported. So the game's ruined.
I mean, is that what we've come to in video games?
I'm just saying that's what it is, dude.
I want people to understand what he's saying there, because you have to really put it into perspective here. And I know people hated when I talked against loot crates because I do it all the time. But the thing is, these loot boxes, guys, this is the type of shit that will go on with loot boxes tied to a progression system. There was no reason to tie them into the progression system with Star Wars Battlefront 2. That's where they completely ruined this damn game. Man, like seriously, I didn't like Battlefront 1. I thought it was a dog shit game, okay? I didn't like it at all. I didn't like the second one because it felt just like 1 to me, okay? However, I was hoping that the campaign was going to be worth something, but from what I played a little bit of during the beta or whatever, it was not great in my opinion. I didn't like what I played. So I didn't buy it. And then I found out it was only 4 hours or, 5 hours maybe. No, thank you. I'm not going to pay $60 to play 5 hours because I wasn't going to touch that multiplayer anyway. But these star cards that ruined this game, this is the type of shit that happens with microtransactions sometimes, guys. And that's why I'm so against them. It's not the fact that, I don't think that they can make money in any kind of way with some sort of microtransaction. It's just the way they're implemented. And the way they implemented them here was just terrible. It was just beyond anything we've ever seen before. And don't think for a second that this might not try to be pulled off again on us. I think another company, hello Activision, I think they might try some shit like this too, because we're already hearing stuff from Bungie and stuff and some weird shit that they've pulled, and we might get into that later. But I'm just saying we got to stay vigilant as gamers, and anytime something like this happens, speak with our wallets like you guys have done. It's been amazing how people have not been buying this game. It really has been amazing. And it's spoken to these developers and it's telling them and the publishers that we don't want this fucking type of bullshit in our games. I love it. I love it, guys.
Yep. Rand, what do you think, man? I've seen you. I've been seeing you playing Battlefront a lot over the weeks. What's going on?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I was in it for the campaign, right? But the loot boxes and the microtransactions are the worst I've ever seen in a main like AAA retail release. Like we can argue whether microtransactions are good or bad, right? I particularly don't care for them, period. Like the loot box, but people are like, hey, Overwatch is fine if it's just cosmetic. Hey, if you do it like Halo, where you regulate it to one mode and then you can have another mode where it's not, that's fine. But here was a game where the multiplayer was built with microtransactions in mind because they made it such a chore to progress through to try to get stuff for your character, and it honestly turned me off to the multiplayer, which is a shame because the multiplayer is actually quite fun. Starfighter Assault's a cool mode, Heroes versus Villains are cool mode. I feel like they did a disservice to the game itself and the people who created it, like the artists at EA or the artists at DICE and stuff, the people who worked their asses off making the game, and then maybe like a higher up decision by DICE or whatever to push these microtransactions really kind of ruined their work,
That's true.
Because the game, like the multiplayer is fun, the single player is okay. It's kind of a shame what happened, and hopefully this is a wake up call to all the other publishers out there that don't try this stuff because gamers are watching, and they're waiting to like pounce, So
yeah,
it's a really weird situation because Disney's not happy about it. They don't want any bad press about Star Wars. EA is probably so disappointed because this game was supposed to sell millions upon millions of copies, like 25 million units, and it's probably not going to even reach half of that.
Nope.
So
I would go out on a limb to say, Rand, that they're more disappointed that the microtransactions are off right now.
I would have to agree with Fonz on that one. I would have to agree with Fonz on that one, man.
There, yeah, go ahead.
I got a real quick question though. What do you guys think about these other countries, not United States, but countries in Europe investigating the loot box situation and declaring them gambling? What do you think about that, and what do you think how that's going to affect this situation going forward?
I'll touch upon this. Okay. So it's a touchy subject because it revolves around politics almost, and the
Yep.
government. One of the things that I heard, and I won't mention names, is they're like, well, if the government's involved with loot boxes and they regulate who can have loot boxes and microtransactions in their game, like where would it stop? Like where would the regulation stop? Because there's been a lot of people that have talked, about violence in video games and whether or not it's correlated with, increase in violence. If you've heard that topic, and obviously you guys have because you're gamers, so it's not necessarily going to go that route, but I think that it just speaks louder on the bigger picture when it comes to loot boxes, because if some of these governments are requesting, percentages for, specific items dropping, like China, before the game could even go to their country, and then all these countries are getting involved with this whole gambling situation, it just speaks volumes on the fact that it is close to gambling.
Salty.
Because if it wasn't,
I want to point out something. I just read this. This is an article that came out yesterday that the UK Gambling Commission has already determined that loot boxes aren't gambling under British law. So apparently the UK is stating that they don't believe it's gambling. So that's a big win for the publishers and the developers.
Right.
I mean, Fonz, you've been at the forefront with, along with some other people, and we've got our fair share of negativity from the community because we have been at the forefront and, fighting against these loot boxes.
Yeah.
But what's your take? I mean, like, if governments are starting to get involved with this, I mean, is there a line that's going to be drawn? Or
I think that politics are at play right now, and I don't think it's going to be deemed gambling at all. I think it's going to go the way that whole issue is just going to go away, and we're gonna continue to have loot boxes. I'm pretty I'm set with that. I know that that's going to happen, man. Like, I don't think we're going to lose loot boxes anytime soon. I think they're here to stay. I'm not going to be naive and tell you, oh no, they're going to go away or anything. But look, I just think that they should be regulated. We should look into these boxes. We should stop doing this whole thing where everything is randomized. This whole RNG thing is really fucked up. Like, that's the part I don't like about them, is the fact that we're having these loot boxes that people are in fact gambling. And there's no other way to say it. They're paying money and they're taking a chance on getting a specific item. They don't get that item. They take another chance. They keep taking chances trying to get an item. And before they know it, they've spent $1,000, It happens. It happens to some people. Some people are more susceptible to becoming addicted by certain things. They have more addictive an addictive nature about them, and I think that some people can be harmed with this kind of stuff. And it's proven that people have already been harmed by this stuff. A lot of people have lost a lot of money by spending money on loot boxes and stuff in mobile games. So, I mean, it's an issue, I think, but it's one that needs to really be taken a look at and seriously looked at, not like just, black and white. Is it gambling or not? They need to regulate it somehow. They need to fix it somehow. I personally would just like a system where it's just a system of, buying things specifically, a specific item. That's it. I don't like taking chances. I if you want to buy a skin, buy that skin. If you want to buy a gun, buy that gun. If they're going to put some kind of microtransaction into a game, make it be something like that. Stop this loot box bullshit.
Yep. I mean, it's a weird situation, to say the truth, because it's like, it's not a government realm. I don't think. It's within the video game space, and I don't know how those regulations could come about. There's regulations for ratings on games, And I don't know if you can, you could
Well,
have some kind
no. That's not the case. The ratings were put there so the government wouldn't become involved. Like the ESRB isn't a government regulatory group. It is a uh, it was put together by the video game industry to self-monitor, right? Because there was a point in time in the 90s where the government was thinking about getting involved in the regulation of video games, because like stuff like Doom and the gory games of early, but like obviously video game companies didn't want that, so they put together the ESA, and then they put together the ESRB, which rates games on a mature rating. What is it, teen, everyone? So they put the ratings out, and so to prevent government intervention. So I would imagine if the specter of government intervention once again loomed with loot boxes, they would probably, ESRB and other stuff would probably change or do something new to prevent that, because they don't want they don't want government intervention.
Yeah. See that, Rand, that's why I love you so much. I mean, you're a wealth of knowledge, and you hit us with that knowledge so quick that it made my head spin. I mean, that is some juicy information there, guys, and that's what you get from Rand. He has this knowledge in his head,
I try my best.
So yeah, and Rand, I don't know if you know this, or you can say anything to this, but I believe I read somewhere not too long ago, because it happened to deal with all this gambling issue, that the ESRB is actually partly funded by publishers and stuff of these video games.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, they're there to do their bidding, essentially. That's why they were created, to protect the corporations and the publishers and the developers and stuff.
So that doesn't necessarily mean they have our best interest in mind, guys. So
no, not necessarily. Yeah. I mean, they do what they're there to do. I just think the way they get away with loot boxes in gambling is a very specific one, because the item that you get can't be resold for money. That is kind of the intrinsic thing about gambling.
I have a caveat there. I have something to argue that anyway.
I'm gonna be like Steam, where you can buy like loot boxes and sell them on the Steam market. Yeah, I mean, those exist.
Maybe not specific items, but here's what my son has done. My son has played games like NBA 2K and maxed out his characters or whatnot in the game or whatever, and he's actually sold whole accounts based on having everything. And he sold them for a lot of money.
I'm sure you could do that. Yeah. But like,
you could do that with a lot of games.
Well, no, but I mean, I could sell my account. I mean, technically you're breaking the terms of service from Microsoft or PlayStation if you do that. I was like saying, if there was a way like Microsoft approved or EA approved where you could buy loot boxes and have star cards and then put those star cards up for like real money in an auction house of some kind, then you'd probably get into that area of, oh man, this might be gambling to a certain extent, because you're selling what you buy, which is kind of a big factor in what gambling is.
I know, like but you don't think that somebody's out there not breaking terms of service by getting their Darth Vader all the way up with the best star cards?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it sucks because it breaks the game, period. Like, that shouldn't be there. And they obviously built a whole progression system with microtransactions in mind and made it such a slog, so you would feel more compelled to buy the loot boxes. Like, that is what they did. And that's, have you been up on the Destiny stuff of what happened today?
Yeah, I heard, man.
Like, ridiculous, man. These freaking companies, like, you can't trust them. Like.
So, since we're on the topic, you want to hit us with that knowledge? What happened with the
let's move into it. Let's move into it, Rand.
I read something about it, but go ahead.
So Destiny, a lot of Reddit users were, especially with the double XP event, they were like investigating because they weren't getting the right XP value. Like, it would show up as the right XP value, but then the amount it filled in the bar was just a fraction. So they basically discovered that Destiny, the game itself, has a throttling thing, right? So when you start doing huge public events one after another, when you do a public event, you don't, even though it shows you getting the right XP, you only get 5% of what it shows, right? And the same thing with like other events. So like, you're getting throttled from the amount of XP, but it still shows you getting the right amount. You're just not getting it. They're lying to you. And of course, as everybody knows, the XP you earn after level 20 all goes to getting those bright engrams. So they're making the journey to getting the next bright engram longer and longer. They're deceiving you because they're showing one thing, but you're actually getting another thing. So the community discovered this, and then the following day, Bungie was like, yeah, we don't like how it works. We got caught. Well, they didn't say they got caught, but suddenly they changed it, right? Oh, we're changing it. And you know what they changed it to, Fonz and Salty and Nick? What? You know what they changed it to? They doubled the experience needed to go up a level. So before it was 80,000, now it's 160,000. So they didn't do anything.
Wow.
Yep. So
bro. That's wow, man. That's oh my god.
But here's the biggest issue with that. And it's because of these microtransactions, people, because you could get those bright engrams every time you level up. So they're stopping it this way. So you have to, they're pressuring some people that are more susceptible to buying these things again to buying them. So that is the issue.
In one breath, they're like, we're going to fix everything, which they did. Like, I've seen analysis on Reddit. They fixed it. Like, you get the XP you're supposed to get. However, they doubled the XP that you need from 80,000 to 160,000. So it's like you're still in the same spot. And it's like, well, why are they even doing this? Why hide and trick people into thinking you're getting this amount of XP when you're really not? And then when you say you fix it, why double the amount of XP that you need? Like, what's all the shady business? And the only thing I can think of is they want the grind to slow down for people, so more people are more inclined to buy the cosmetic. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. Yeah. I mean, maybe a game designer out there could come in here and give us a different reason, but I mean, I don't know. The XP is linked to bright engrams, which they sell for real money. You know, like I don't know what else it could be.
That's sad, dude.
I mean, Destiny 2. Man, it was on my shit list before, but I mean, this just adds to it, right? I mean,
and yeah, this adds to it on top of the whole when we discovered how we could only purchase 2 things of the expansion and not 1.
Yeah,
this
so
adds even more to that fire,
just
bro.
to let you guys know, you know, in Destiny 1, they had a similar release window with their expansions. So they had the Dark Below and then the House of Wolves. It's similar to the stuff they have now. You could purchase those separately. I remember doing it actually. But now I went to the store because I have some friends that are buying it. I really don't want to buy it, but you know, Nick brought it up and my friend Ned brought it up. And you can only buy these expansions or DLCs as a bundle. So I don't know, man. I mean, why do we as gamers have to like?
Well, that just, you know, dude, that solidified me not coming back to Destiny right there, man.
Yeah. So
dude, for real,
why do we have to be detectives and catch these developers and these publishers with their hands in the cookie jar, you know, doing this shady stuff?
Because if you ever read some of the Glassdoor reviews of employees at Bungie, like, you know, Glassdoor is a website where employees can rate their company. A lot of now, of course, there's no authentication, but a lot of the stuff I've read is that Bungie thinks their audience is a bunch of idiots. So, yeah, and I think a lot of companies think the same. A lot of companies think, you know, we're just a bunch of slack-jawed yokels who live in our parents' basement with long neck beards and Cheetos dust everywhere and Doritos, you know, like cheese on our fingers. Like, I don't know, man, but like this makes me question everything. But it's like you have the stuff with Star Wars, clearly there to force people to mine microtransactions. You have Bungie caught red-handed manipulating the XP growth in the game, and then when they finally say they fix it, they just double it. So like they're lying, and they've never been upfront about communication. That's one of the things about. I mean, I'm sure Fonz can speak on that. Like, well, they've always sucked when it comes to communicating what's going on.
Let's also bring up the fact that really Activision was caught with these patents that blatantly tried to steer people to buying microtransactions. So wouldn't you guys say that we have a problem with this growing trend of microtransactions?
Yep, and they're going to be more and more games going forward, man.
And that's what I don't understand, how people get so defensive when I bring it up. When we talk on it against it, people get so upset, and it's like, dude, I'm not talking badly about your favorite game. I'm talking about poor implementation of certain microtransactions in certain games. That is what I'm talking about. It's not just like a total general blanket statement saying all microtransactions are the devil. You know what I'm saying? Facts. There's different levels of these microtransactions that are just, they range from just bad to really bad, you know. And for me, it's like, you know, like I said again, if you're going to buy a specific item, let it be that. Stop with this bullshit loot crate stuff, and stop with tying it into a progression system, because then they just make these games more grindy and you just lose interest, and they make the game not fun to the point where you just want to buy your way to the end. And that is not the kind of world I want to live in with these video games. That's not what I started playing back in 1982. I don't want to play games that are this way and built around these microtransactions. And it is an issue. And these people that are defending it need to understand that it's a bigger picture they have to look at, rather than just looking at one specific title. They have to look down the road. What's going on? This trend is crazy.
Yeah, because I've said it before. It's like, look how much, look, 10 years, right? 10 years, 2007 to 2017, right? And I mention that because like 2007 or right around that time is when like people freaked out over horse armor in Oblivion. You remember?
Uh-oh.
How dare you spend $3?
Don't get Fonz started on that horse armor, bro.
I'm just saying that's 10 years ago.
Yep.
Like, and we're all old enough here to remember when games like were a full package when you bought them, when you got cosmetic stuff like for free or by maybe completing certain challenges in games, when it was a full thing, and they sold DLC to you as like an expansion that they spent years working on. Instead, now we get games piecemeal to us, right? And the things we used to get for free are like cheat codes or cosmetic items are locked behind an RNG system. You know, it's disappointing, and I'm just kind of curious, like, where's gaming going to be 10 years from now?
I wouldn't be surprised, Rand, if Battlefront 2's campaign wasn't stripped in half. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, you damn well know it was.
I commented on this, and I know for a fact, and then they stripped chapters out of it to release content, because it's this thing where Battlefront 1 didn't have enough content, so they're like, okay, we're going to have these loot boxes that are going to pay for so-called, you know, DLC or whatever. So they're like, oh, we're going to release the story content and we're going to say it's free. But when in reality it was a short campaign, it was like 5 hours or whatever. And then they cut out probably whatever, 2 hours, 3 hours of the campaign that we were supposed to get in general. And then they're calling it DLC that's for free. That's a problem, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just this big, huge, I don't know. I mean, when I come across people that don't think it's an important topic, it frustrates me because, you know, you might not care, but it's going to impact your gaming one way or another, you know, because as we see with this game, when EA took it to extremes because it's Star Wars and they felt like they could, or, you know, Destiny or whatever, it has an impact on the quality of game you're getting, and you can't really think that it's not going to be impacting your gaming life. You know, it's this topic that's not going to be going away, but it's interesting to see like the impacts it's having in the current games. You know, Destiny 2 has been thought of as kind of a disappointing game. Battlefront 2, man, we can't even go there anymore. But it's so encompassing. It's all encompassing when it comes to gaming right now. So our voices do matter, and you can see that. I mean, don't think that your voice doesn't matter. That's the take-home message from tonight. You know, when it comes to anything with gaming, because our voices do matter. You know,
right?
And our voices should matter very much on net neutrality. People need to wise up. And,
so I'm not an expert on net neutrality. I'm not going to pretend like I am. So if anybody wants to give, you know, the underlying backstory to net neutrality, feel free to jump in here. But it is a big issue that's going on when it comes to the internet. Fonz, do you want to give the backstory here?
Well, basically what it is the way I see it anyway, is what they want to do is they want to take away net neutrality, which makes all ISPs sort of equal and everything you go to online equal, meaning that there's no what they could do if they strip net neutrality is start opening up fast lanes for certain websites and slowing down lanes for other websites. So they could tier out your ISP service. They could make it to where, you know, say if you want to use Netflix, You know, they could slow you down, but if you pay a premium price, they will speed your speeds back up for that internet, you know, service towards Netflix to that server. And basically, that's basically what they could do is start throttling you here and speeding you up there, just as long as you pay a premium service. It's just a lot of factors involved here. They could do so much against us and make us pay a lot more money than we're paying now. And that's what we're trying to fight here with keeping net neutrality. We don't want them to be able to nickel and dime us everywhere they can.
Right.
I don't want to get treated like the cable company does. You know how they have tier packages for everything? You got your sports package and stuff. Well, I could totally see them doing that with the internet. I can totally see them saying, hey, we have the all-inclusive video streaming service package. Oh, we have the gaming service package, you know, things like that. And that's not what we need, man. We need it all open to everybody, to everything. We don't need to have us locked behind any kind of throttling or paywalls or anything.
So basically,
really,
go ahead, Nick.
I was gonna say, really, in a nutshell, all it comes down to is it's going to help the big corporations and not the little guy, just like every other thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really what it's going to come down to is you know, big companies get streamlined to their stuff, and the Joe Schmo who has a small website won't get it. That's pretty much what it comes down to, you know, just like everything else.
So basically, back in 2015. Millions of activists pressured the Federal Communications Commission to adopt what we know as net neutrality rules, in which it keeps the internet free per se.
Okay, so, and here's the thing. Back in 2014, I don't know if you guys remember this, but back in like late 2013, Netflix was accusing Comcast and Verizon of both throttling customers. They were slowing down that lane to Netflix for people, and people were complaining that they were having buffering issues and everything. And indeed, that was the case. And this is before net neutrality, mind you. And what Comcast and Verizon was doing was trying to charge Netflix more money. And Verizon, in fact, paid them in 2014, paid them money to stop throttling their customers at Verizon. So this stuff has happened in the past, guys, and this is the kind of stuff we need to stop. That's why net neutrality is very important.
Yep. So they've brought up, you know, things in the government right now to, go against the rules that are in place, and it will affect all, aspects of life per se, because, if you're going with a company that, like, I don't know, your internet company is partnered with, a certain company, and they're going against something like Netflix and they're not partnered, they might slow your speeds down, they might charge you more. And when it comes to gaming right now, especially with the Xbox One X, we're looking at, huge file sizes, internet capacities and speeds. So, who's to say that the internet's, if you're downloading all these games or transferring them, the internet speeds wouldn't be affected, and that does affect gaming in the long term. So, Rand, what's your thought on, this whole net neutrality thing? I know it's not specifically, a specific gaming topic, but it does affect gaming in general.
Yeah, I mean, they've been trying to get rid of it for a while, and every time they try to, everybody tries to organize against it. I feel like it's almost certain it's going to go down this time. They're going to get rid of it. And the thing is, I feel like this is strictly just for the benefit of corporations and not people, because I've never heard one good reason how I would benefit in any way from this. Like Comcast is always like, they say we will not do this, we will not do that, but like like Comcast will never come out and like, or any of these companies said, well, it's better for you because if this happens and it passes, then we will do X, Y, and Z. Well, maybe we'll improve internet speed for you. Like there's plenty of things they could say, but they never do. So to me, there's like the way I'm looking at it is like there's no benefit to consumers. The only benefit there is rich companies. So if it only benefits them, and the fact that they want it so bad and they put a puppet into the leadership of FCC to pass it, then I don't want it just on that basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a weird topic because it gets into the political area, But if you guys haven't heard about this topic or it's something new to you, I suggest that you look it up because, there's a lot of things going on. I haven't seen this much participation when it came to, something that's trying to be passed in the government in a while. I personally think that, if it passes, and I think that people are going to riot, and they're just not going to stand for, these, things
I think
being
there's going to
passed.
be,
So
I think there will be some boycotting going on for sure. But as far as riots go, I don't think we'll see anything like that.
not
But
like
there,
actual riots. It's just
yeah,
like, like
there'll be
protesting
people
and
protesting for sure against this because it's huge, man. This is making your internet just totally not free, for lack of a better term. There, it's just, gosh, if they start doing this, we're doomed to pay higher fees and just paying a lot more out of pocket. And I can
yeah.
just see this going south real quick. And even an FCP member, I forgot who it was, but I was reading the other day. He wrote some sort of op-ed piece in some paper somewhere. But he's an FCC member now, and they're the ones voting for this. He's telling Americans, fight against this. I do not want to see net neutrality gone. He's urging people to fight against this. So just goes to show you that not all of them are for getting rid of net neutrality, but from what I hear, most of them on that panel are.
Yeah. Well, I've seen major, like Netflix I think they've come out in the open and told people about it and to voice their opinions and all this other stuff. So
yeah, and the funny thing is Comcast, they're on Twitter talking about how, they're not going to do anything if net neutrality ends. They're for net neutrality. Yet they're the same people that charged Verizon for, throttling customers.
yeah, man. I mean, it always circles back eventually, with these big companies and stuff. So anyway, I mean, the topics, the news has been kind of slow lately with with Thanksgiving and Black Friday and Cyber Monday. But Cyber Monday is taking place on Monday, so there's going to be a lot of sales there. We're not going to get into it. I think Rand's going to pick up his PC there. So make sure you guys check that out if you guys are looking for some more games. If you happen to miss out on Black Friday, like I said, the news is kind of slow. I appreciate you guys coming on today. We had some members not show up, and the news is kind of slow. So that's going to do it for our topics tonight. We're going to do our outros here, and we're going to get out and let you guys get back to gaming and whatever else you want to do tonight. So anyway, Rand, and you, my friend.
Yo, thanks for having me on, guys. You can find me at youtube.com/randothor19. That's my channel, and all the links in the description of Twitter and all that stuff are there as well. It was a blast coming on here, and maybe we can do it again sometime down the road.
Yes, sir. All right, Fonzarelli, what's up, man? What's going on with you? I know something new is going on.
Yeah, I want to let everybody know out there listening to this that I, myself, and Nate here, Mr. Salty, we're going to have a new podcast coming out on iTunes, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts can be downloaded. So if you have a podcast app on your phone, you'll be able to download it. We'll even have a YouTube channel to throw it up on there as well, but we really want to get an audience listening to us more than watching us here because we're not going to be live streaming. It's all going to be a full production, pre-recorded show. And that's going to start up on the 3rd of December. So Monday, 12/03/17, we're going to start up. And it's going to be called the Loot Chest Radio. Loot Chest Radio podcast, guys. So check us out.
Nice, nice. Nick, what's up, man? I mean, what's going on with you?
Just still doing the thing, still grinding the YouTube. Doing more so Nintendo videos now. I know a lot of people aren't interested in that in the chat, but doing more Nintendo videos now and also other video game topics. But really trying to still trying to dig into that community. But surely it's gonna happen. So that's really what I'm doing. You guys can find me youtube.com/Nick Fury. Other than that, just surviving, man. Just surviving.
I feel you, man. It's been rough. I was sick the last couple of days. I had to turn down some requests to go on some people's podcasts and stuff. Like I said before, I do appreciate Rand coming on. The news has been pretty slow lately. I haven't had the chance to get a video out on my channel in like 4 days, so I apologize about that. But I'm super excited about Loose Chess Radio. We're going to try to make something that's not really, seen a lot in the community and outside the community. We're going to be building something that's going to be awesome. So stay tuned for that. This is, this is my channel, so you're here. And I appreciate everybody in the chat that participated. It's kind of an abbreviated version of Saltiest Podcast, but we don't like to bullshit, you know what I'm saying? We're not going to extend the podcast just to extend it if the topics aren't there. So I hope you guys enjoyed the content that we, brought out this evening. I'm going to be, putting out videos on the daily on Xbox News, so stay tuned for that. So yeah, that's going to do it for us on the Saltiest Podcast, episode 14. What's up?
Hey, I also want to mention that we're not getting rid of the Saltiest Podcast or RDX or anything else we're doing. We're still doing that as well. So don't think these are going away.
That's true. You can still find us right here. So that's going to do it for us, episode 14. Thank you for joining us. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, stay salty, my friends.
Yes, sir.